with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing. Following the Pledge of Allegiance will be a silent moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I would like to have the clerk read the notice, please.
The adjourned annual meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, composed of 38 members, will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street, Wausau, on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. And the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. And I would like to request everyone to please put your electronic devices and or cell phones on silent and or vibrate as to not interrupt the meeting, and I thank you for complying. And then we would go to item number 5, and I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Arstead. Here. Beestrom.
Here.
Bizotto.
Here.
Boots.
Here.
Book.
Here.
Butke.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Seiler. Here. Conway.
Here.
Dickinson.
Here.
Drabeck.
Here.
Byfrick.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Gibbs.
Here.
Gonnering.
Here.
Guild.
Here.
Gums.
Here.
Harris. Jacobson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Krause.
Yeah.
Lamont.
Here.
Longenhan.
Here.
Leahy.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
Mask.
Here.
McEwen.
Here.
Oberbeck.
Here.
Opal.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Rosenberg.
Here.
Seefeld.
Here.
Soibert.
Here.
Van Cray.
Here.
Vole. Zhang.
Here.
Harris. Vole. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to welcome all the visitors that we have here with us this evening, including our viewing audience. And as we go through probably one of the most important meetings that this board takes up during the year, and that being the budget, and especially this year in the hearing and the redistricting maps that we will be taking up. So thank you for your interest, and we will move on to educational reports. There is none. We'll move on to item C, a public hearing, and do we have a notice? And I'd ask the clerk to read the notice.
Pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 59.10, Parent 3, Parent B1, A public hearing will be held on the final county supervisory district plan before the Marathon County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Assembly Room, Marathon County Courthouse, 500 4th Street, Wausau. The hearing will be held as part of the regularly scheduled County Board annual meeting.
Thank you, and with that, then I would open the public hearing and invite any discussion and review of the final supervisory district plan for the redistricting of Marathon County as a result of the 2020 census. Any discussion or, any public comment, any comment by anyone that wishes to make comment at the public hearing? Again, anybody wishing to make a comment in regards to the redistricting maps and the final plan that was sent to this board by the redistricting committee last week? Okay. I call one last time. Is there anybody on the WebEx that wishes to make a comment on the public hearing, during the public hearing on the redistricting? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we will move on. And we will proceed to the consent agenda, items D9 through D12A. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Langenhahn and seconded by Supervisor Robinson. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda items D9 through items D12A? Any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items D9 through items D12A, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And the motion is carried and is unanimous. And we will move on to items E, ordinances, item E13, amending section 7.125 of the Marathon County Code relating to the designation of ATV/UTV routes and trails and regulation of ATV/UTV operation within Marathon County. Ordinance 0-39-21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Christensen, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, I will like to, at this point, I will relinquish the chair's duty to the vice chair, and for the balance of the discussion on this agenda item, and then return the chair duties to the chair after the dispensing of this agenda item.
Thank you. So, moving on with a discussion on ordinance 0-39-21. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, our acting chair.
Go ahead, Supervisor Gibbs.
I would like to make a motion to amend section 4, following the section II, and it would read III, or 4A III. The municipality, parent town, village, or city in which the highway segment is located has adopted an ordinance opening its local roads to ATV/UTV traffic. And under item C, we'll be adding item III, operators of the ATV, UTV routes shall observe the posted speed limit on the roadway in the event permitted by law, the maximum speed permitted for ATV/UTV operations on any route is 35 miles per hour. That's my motion.
Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Robinson. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Motion on the amendments to the original ordinance.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Supervisor Gibbs.
Thank you. I would like to explain the rationale and the reasoning why I felt it necessary to amend the ordinance. I want to first thank the Infrastructure Committee for the work that they've done. I think they've done a lot of important work. One of the things that struck me as odd, though, was the section that opens county highways in municipalities that currently does not have any section of their roads open. And those include municipalities of towns of Rib Mountain, town of Gunther, town of Rib Falls, town of Stettin, town of Marathon. It also includes villages of Unity and Burnhamwood. Marathon County has had a long history of advocating for local control. And in this case, advocating for joint and mutual respect of each other's authority. I'll give you an example. When Marathon County has a zoning ordinance and the towns adopt zoning ordinance, it's in concert with the town. It is not in opposition of what the town wants or chooses to have. So I think that when we ever go to Washington, D.C., this board, when I serve on the NACO, National Counties Association, whenever NACO goes and lobbies Congress, we lobby for local control. Wisconsin Counties Association also lobbies for local control. One of the things that we respect is local control, and we as a board have spent many times and many resolutions forwarding to the state to respect local control. So I thought that it is important that if the town or village has chosen not to open their roads, that it clearly is their choice to not open those roads and not open the county roads at the same time. Now, the reverse is true, is if a municipality opens any roads, then the county roads are automatically open. And unless there is a safety concern that the highway commissioner would consider to be an issue that he would potentially close it. So I throw that out because I think it is important. So just imagine that you're in a local town, your village or village board meeting, and you're one of those board members, and your constituents overwhelmingly told you not to, and they do not want ATVs or UTVs on their roads in their village. And then you have, or on their main street. It should be their choice. So what we're saying, the way the ordinance is written, is no, they don't have a choice, that those roads are open automatically. I think that's contrary to what we have historically done. We've always worked with municipalities and not tried to tell them what to do. Now, some will argue that, there are roads and that we can do whatever we wish to. There's no question. You can. However, just because you can, does that mean you should? I think we have historically worked with mutual permission and mutual respect of each of those municipalities and their boundaries, and they're to satisfy what their constituents has said. Local control, and why is it pertinent? Because the representatives in those municipalities are the closest to those citizens that they represent. No different than what we represent for the citizens of Marathon County when it comes to Marathon County residents. But in this case, we're basically, in effect, telling them, nope, you have to respect what we want. I think we need to work together with those municipalities in concert, and rather than telling them what to do. We have often sat there and admonished the state when they dictate to us what we are to do without any input from us. So I think that provision makes a lot of sense. The other provision is, and I will, Supervisor Dickinson said it very well, and I agree with him in that the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is and has provided a safe outcome with the ATVs, UTVs. And I will provide just a little bit of context. When you look at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission and their report alone, their report states at least 900 deaths, or 33% of the reported deaths during the 4-year period, were related to ATVs being ridden on paved roads or parking lots. It's important that every rider of every age know. Now, this is over a 4-year period, and this is over the United States, his total of the United States. And they also talk about the total number of deaths and the total number of injuries. The report includes ATV fatality data from 1982 to 2016. Again, this report was showing the total of 15,700 fatalities. And they go on to say, and this is again, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says that as long, it urges riders to keep all off-road vehicles off-road. That includes all-terrain vehicles, recreational off-road vehicles, ROVs, side-by-sides, dirt bikes, and other utilities. We're past that, but I think that implementing the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, if that is authorized with the adoption of, or the passage of AB 519 and Senate Bill 505, that Senator Petrusky has indicated to me that he anticipates that to be no problem, and that will be approved in the first quarter of 2022. So I think that it makes the most sense that we implement that in our ordinance today, so that, but it clearly states that if that is not permissible, that it is not applicable. So that is the rationale that I've offered, and I yield the best of my time.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson?
Thank you, Acting Chair. I appreciate the amendment, and I don't really think I have an issue with it. Something occurred to me today, and I had emailed the county administrator about it, and that is if we had county roads closed, if we had county roads open in those closed areas, it could encourage someone to get on at one township and just get on that county road for 4 or 5 miles or however long that is, and just kind of boogie through this other township into another. And that was something I think all of our ATV and UTV riders had talked about. They want to use these for connections, not for long haul on pavement. And so I certainly, I think that's something we had spoken about in infrastructure, and it was shared in public safety to look at that option. And I do think that that is the way it's written, I think is something I would support. And I agree with the speed limit as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Butke?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. I too support the amendment. Speaking as the chair of Town of Stettin, we do not have an ordinance in place at this time for ATV, UTV. We are in the process of considering it though. And I do think it's appropriate that at this time we not have that in place, that it'll give us some time too to sort that out as a township and be able to ferret it out in Stettin. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Longhorn?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. I would urge everyone else here to support the amendment as well. The towns of Marathon and Mosinee, I don't know if Mosinee has opened up all their roads, but town of Marathon has not, as the Supervisor Gibbs had said. And I know that with County Highway B and County Highway O, that could create a lot of confusion between those two towns. So I would urge everybody to support the amendment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Opel?
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair. I would support the amendment also. I see from the map that KK, just to the east of 9 Mile Forest and south of the MPO line, is open. It appears to be open for ATVs as proposed in this resolution. I'd like to take that to my town board and see what they think. And I don't think it should be much of a problem, but I'd like to have my board take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gibbs, go ahead.
Sure, so I think to follow up my colleague Supervisor Opel, I think what the proposed amendment would do is would effectively close that unless the town of Rib Mountain passed an ordinance. So Highway KK would be closed unless you passed an ordinance approving ATV use. If you approved ATV use, it would effectively then potentially open Highway KK. There would be one more hurdle to get over, and that would be the hurdle that the highway commissioner has the authority to close sections that meet all the other criteria yet have a safety concern. But he has not indicated that on the map. I think Mr. Pfeffrick was going to try to explain the different maps that we have included in the packet. Mr. Chair, Acting Chair.
Thank you.
Acting Chair, Supervisor Pfeiffer, if I could.
Go ahead, Supervisor Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I apologize. Right when we got to this topic, my iPad decided to freeze up, but if I repeat anything, I apologize. So in your packet, you will see two maps. The first is based on the MPO boundary and traffic volumes. And then the second map takes into account the public safety exemption that allows the highway commissioner to close a highway segment he believes need to be closed based on those public safety threats. Also within the packet and those maps, you'll see what's part of the amendment and those townships that do not have any roads open. I hope that clarifies everything in the packet. The Infrastructure Committee has had a number of discussions on this topic, and we're hoping that we'll be able to finish up the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Supervisor Bizzotto.
Supervisor Bizzotto, go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I'd like to thank Chair Gibbs for raising the issue of local control. I'm just looking at the specific wording of the proposed amendment and am wondering if it could be slightly altered to make the meaning a little more clear. So looking at the, oh, sorry, where, okay. Well, I guess maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. So I was where the screen was before, where it says,
We couldn't understand you the last few comments.
sorry, so that sub 3 there that says in the event permitted by law, it's really unclear what that's trying to say. I think it's trying to say if state law is changed to align with this, but it's unclear, and I would I guess propose some sort of change to clarify that.
Thank you. Supervisor Gibbs?
Yes, I had the wording reviewed by Corp Counsel, and Corp Counsel confirmed that the wording is, well, is the way he would write it for the implementation, because it's clear, I'm not a lawyer, but I am an accountant. Yeah, so we don't complicate things, we just count things. It's intended to reflect if it's permitted by law, and currently, state statute does not allow that. So it's intended to be impactful if Senate Bill 505 and Assembly Bill 519 get approved, and the governor were to sign it into law.
Thank you. Supervisor Robinson?
On that point, it's an excellent idea. We talked about this at the Infrastructure Committee. The current ATV ordinance is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. The Wisconsin Town Association and others have opined that that is not enforceable and not allowed under current state statutes. So the legislature is working on trying to give that authority to set a different speed limit between cars and ATVs, which is our current practice, and this is anticipatory of that change and would allow us to go to that speed limit should that statute be changed in the future.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Supervisor Fisher here.
Supervisor Fisher, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair. I would just like to agree with the idea of the amendment in regards to the local control as being over several towns and villages, some that are fully open and some that are not. I appreciate that adding of that verbiage to ensure that the local townships and towns can still maintain their rule as they wish, but it would be fully in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson?
One question that comes up, Acting Chair, and that is, what about a shared road, like County X, Gunther and Knowlton, County H is another. Is that going to be closed, or is that going to be open? I don't know how that's handled now with shared road, with townships.
I guess I would refer to Corp Counsel.
So current law and state law governing this issue, it depends whose jurisdiction the road is under. If it's a county road, then the county ordinance governing whether it's open or closed would govern that with this exception in mind. And if it's solely under town control or village control, then town or village would make those regulations. I don't know if that answers your question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just trying to get to that, so here you have a township on the east that is closed to ATV traffic, and then we have the county highway, and then on the west, that township is open. What's that travel, what are we going to allow on that county highway?
We are fortunate to have Mr. Lang from the Highway Department here to answer that question, specifically how it currently works.
The question I bring up at a staff level is we'll need to know what the verbiage is going to tell us to do, because the center line of that road, say Highway H going from 29 up north 6 miles. On the east side is Rib Falls, which is closed, and on the west side, which is Reap Rock, which is open. The jurisdiction is county jurisdiction, so it'll follow whatever our ordinance is saying. But at a staff level, we'll need to know what the intention is of that, if that should be open or if it should be closed. And the only thing I would recommend is don't open one side.
I agree. Yeah. So in my assessment of the provisions drafted by the Infrastructure Committee, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but showed great wisdom in that the public safety exception allows the highway commissioner to, in his or her discretion, close or open segments. So if you have one municipality that has said a portion of that they want their jurisdiction closed, the town, another open, the highway commissioner would have in his or her authority the ability to open that opposing section as opposed to only allow an ATV to go down the northbound side of the highway and not the southbound. Fair?
Yes, if it'll fall under the commissioner will, because we would make that decision discuss the ordinance wants to, I guess, clarify that.
I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Supervisor Dickinson. Clear as mud, I assume.
Supervisor Booth.
Supervisor Boots, go ahead.
I guess what my thought process is that you have to spell that out. Are we going to, if there's a road between two townships where one's open and one's closed, per this recommendation by Supervisor Gibbs, I think we should spell that out. If it's a border road, we need to spell that out in this amendment. Thank you.
Supervisor Pfeiffer?
Supervisor Pfeiffer, go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Chair. In working on this at the Village of Croninwater, when we implemented and opened all our roads here, my understanding was that the requirement was that if you did not have both municipalities open for border roads, then that road was closed. I would recommend that we do something similar with county roads. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there a motion to amend the, go ahead Supervisor Johnson.
Amendment.
Can't amend
You vote on the.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
it. Go ahead Supervisor Johnson.
If you're going to take it as a friendly. So I move that in cases where a county road is a border between two townships where one township has not opened the roads, that section of the county highway be deemed as closed unless both sides are open.
Is that your amendment?
It is.
We have a second?
Yes.
Supervisor Christensen, second. Okay. I guess we're trying to determine if.
So if there's a border, it's a county road borders two municipalities, and one is closed and one is open, it's closed. That's,
Just so everybody, I think what you're saying is if a county road borders a township and one of the townships has closed, then it's deemed closed.
I believe that's what I said.
Perfect.
So, okay, so we have an amendment to add with border roads, if one side is closed, that both sides are closed, correct? Summing it up? Okay, is there any discussion on that?
Tom Seibert here.
Go ahead Supervisor Pfeiffer.
Seibert, can't we leave that up to the townships, the township where it's closed? If the closed township says, yeah, go ahead, they can run Highway B, or they can, as long as they stay out of our township. Can't that be included in that, to leave it up to the township that's closed to make that decision?
Yeah, well, I guess what we're trying to eliminate is having one side of the road open and the other side closed. That would be very confusing, I think, for everybody.
Right.
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. in the infrastructure committee, one of the main impetuses behind this, other than making it a better destination and better experience for our ATV, UTV users, was to get out of the business of constantly reviewing small sections. So I think if the township opens up, then it would become open. So I don't think we need to add any additional language, because again, a big part of this coming out of infrastructure was we didn't want Jim Griesbach spending half his time reviewing ATV and traffic counts and all that other stuff, because he's actually got a highway department to run. So it was to find a comprehensive way to address this, which satisfies all parties. So I think we're good with it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I just thought I give a point of order. Do we vote on
The amendment to the amendment.
the amendment to the amendment? Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm just acting. So we're taking, we're going to have a vote on the amendment to the amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Which is on the screen, the second, which is highlighted now. Everybody clear on what we're voting on? Any other discussion? All right. So all in favor of the amendment to the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. So going back to the amendment to the original ordinance from Supervisor Gibbs, is there any further discussion on that? That would be I or triple I, or the next one. There's two of them, yeah. So is there any discussion on the amendment to the original ordinance? Okay. All in favor of the amendment to the original ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now going back to the ordinance, the original ordinance with the amendments to the original ordinance. Is there any further discussion on that? No further discussion. All right, all in favor of the original ordinance with the two amendments signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. And now I'm going to relink my acting chair back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair McEwen. We will move on to item E14, excuse me, E14, amending section 19.07 of the Marathon County General Code of Ordinances, Ordinance 40-21. What is your pleasure? Again, this is the ordinance clarification from the Parks Department. Supervisor Seefeld with the motion. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Langenhan. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Supervisor Christensen, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, would you explain what this ordinance is about, please?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
This is Administrator Leonard, and Jamie can interrupt me if she's appearing virtually. She's playing double duty with the city of Wausau tonight and also here. But as explained at your last meeting, essentially what the ordinance does is it removes some language as recommended by the Parks Commission to permit training, the possession of canines at park facilities for purposes of training without express permission from the Parks Director or the Parks Commission. The Parks Director serves as a designee for the Parks Commission. It's really just to continue that, making sure that the facility is being used for training at times that is conducive for park use. I did have conversation with City of Wausau Police Department Chief Ben Bliven late this afternoon, and confirmed with him that the scheduling of trainings for facilities shouldn't pose a significant issue to them at all.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
if I could add, I do want to be clear, and that is the ordinance, but this is stemmed from specifically the concern about training at the sports complex, where rules have been made by the county board when the sports complex was developed of animals not allowed there. Now we would allow any service animal there that's a service animal or one that is on duty or in need of helping law enforcement. But there is concern about allowing that facility for training because of the fact that it is closed to the public and does need to be scheduled for use, and it's high quality, and the amount of cost it is to maintain that facility at a high value to have the events there that we do. So that is really why this ordinance was stemmed, to take out that training portion.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion? Any additional questions? Okay.
Supervisor Pizzotto.
Supervisor Pizzotto, go ahead.
So earlier today, it looks like a lieutenant of the Wausau Police Department, Lieutenant Luis Lopez Serrao, sent out a kind of supervisor-wide email. So I'm not sure if everyone had the chance to review that email, but it looks like this would be affecting, if this ordinance passes as written, it would affect the police department's ability to train its canine unit animals. So I was wondering, Chair Gibbs, if you could speak to how the police department would be impacted, or if we can have Ms. Polly weigh in on how what discussions have been had around that and how that would look.
Okay, thank you for the question, Supervisor Pizzotto. This afternoon, after I had received the same email, I had a discussion with the administrator. Administrator has had a discussion with Chief Blevin, and that's what he was referring to earlier, that the scheduling training for the Wausau Police Department and their canine unit will not be an issue. And so this is not a problem as viewed by the Wausau Police Department and leadership. Go ahead.
Thank you for that clarification, Chair.
This is Administrator Leonard again, and I think Jamie can clarify. I think one of the big parts, and Jamie references, there's a lot of other property other than the sports complex for the Wausau Police Department to use. Jamie, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, I just want to stress that has been the concern. So I'm hesitant to say that any training at the sports complex would be approved, because I think that has been the commission's stance, and maybe a member of the park commission could also speak to this, that we really don't want animals there. That's why the rules were made there. Now, if there was a one-time specific training that's specific to that facility, then yes, of course, it would be granted to not hinder any training. But like Administrator Leonard said, we have many other park facilities that we would allow any training at any time. For instance, the beaches are also in the same ordinance, that if there was a training specific to a beach, that would be specific to that area, we would grant that training. So to say that we would always grant just the training at the sports complex for any training is something that's what the concern is. And I think if it was specific to that complex, we would definitely grant that ability.
Okay, Supervisor Opel, who sits on the Park Commission.
I was going to say that. Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. But as Chairman Gibbs related, I do attend the Park Commission. And we looked at this quite thoroughly, had quite an active discussion, and it wasn't even close, to be quite honest with you. It was almost unanimous. It may have been unanimous. I didn't write down the official vote of it, but Park Commission decided that we should really accept this this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Supervisor Mask?
Supervisor Mask, go ahead.
I'm on the Park Commission also, and yes, it was unanimous. We agreed after lengthy discussion that the sports complex should be an exemption here from training because of the very expensive turf, and as Jamie said, of the high volume of paying customers that use that. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the agenda item E14, amending section 1907, ordinance 40-21? Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the amending section 19.07 of the Marathon County General Code of Ordinances, ordinance 40-21, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you. We will move on to resolutions. Item F, redistricting committee and executive committee. Item F15, approval of the final redistricting plan, resolution 77-21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Butke. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seiler. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Opel.
Yes, thank you again, Chairman Gibbs. But Red Mountain initially had a issue with one of their ward boundary, which we thought could be corrected. But now we understand that there will be in the future a way of appealing that to the proper governing body. So I am in favor of this.
Thank you. Any other? Supervisor Robinson.
I have a concern relative to the standard deviation. The standard deviation guidelines are that there should be no more than a 10% deviation between the largest and the smallest district. This is at 14%. I intend to vote no and urge you to vote your conscience.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion approving the final redistricting plan, resolution 77-21, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no.
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 The motion carries. It is not unanimous. Thank you. And we will move on to item G, Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee. Item G16, a resolution approving adjustment to state property tax levy limit for 2022 budget. Resolution 78-21. This does require a 3/4 majority vote of the board. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Robinson and seconded by Supervisor Opal. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll due to the fact that we do need a 3/4 majority vote.
Gibbs.
Aye.
Gonnering.
Aye.
Guild. Gums.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Jacobson. Johnson.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Lamont. Longenhan.
Aye.
Leahy.
Aye.
Lowe.
Aye.
Mask. McEwen.
Aye.
Oberbeck.
Aye.
Opal.
Aye.
Robinson. Rosenberg.
Aye.
Seafelt.
Aye.
Soibert. Van Cray.
Aye.
Vol. Zhang.
Aye.
Arstead.
Aye.
Beestrom.
Aye.
Bizotto.
Aye.
Boots.
Aye.
Book.
Aye.
Butke.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Seiler. Conway.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Drabeck.
Aye.
Pfeifrick.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Gaber.
Aye.
Guild.
Aye.
Jacobson.
Aye.
Lamont.
Aye. I
Mask.
said aye.
I heard you, thank you. Mask?
I said aye before too. You didn't hear me?
No, ma'am.
Aye.
Thank you. Soibert. Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you.
And the motion is carried. Thank you. And we will move on to item G, 17, Budget and Property Tax Levy Resolution, Resolution 79-21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Seafelt and seconded by Vice Chair McEwen. Any discussion on the budget and property tax levy resolution 79-21? I will just make a note that and I don't want to steal the thunder of the chair of HR Finance, so I'll let HR Finance speak to the discussion that was had this afternoon, or lack thereof.
Well, it was the lack thereof that had us sort of excited, because this is the first budget in my memory where we haven't had a contentious issue or a tough debate, and it's I think a reflection of the effort that went into the development of the budget, and the quality of the budget message that was shared with you. And I've heard from a number of you that they were appreciative of the narrative that tried to bring some context to the budget in terms of describing how the programs and departments operate and what the priorities are. And that's a tribute to Administrator Leonard, Christy Palmer. I just about did Cordis, but I'm slow to learn. And Sarah Dowdett and others in administration. We thank them for a very well done and prepared budget in these tough times. And I think it maintains our commitment to our priorities of being the healthiest, safest, and most prosperous county. And they deserve a lot of credit in the preparation of this document.
And from the chair seat, I do also want to express my sincere appreciation to not only the finance department, finance committee, also each of the department heads and all of their diligent efforts, along with administration. I also, over 16 years, have now, this is the 16th budget that I have had the pleasure of serving the residents of Marathon County on voting on. And this is the first budget that I can recall on the 16 years that has not had some contentious item that included a lot of debate. And so, again, I want to commend staff for a job well done. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the budget and property tax levy resolution, Resolution 79-21, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is carried and it is unanimous, and we have a budget for 2022. And we will move on to item G18, establishing salaries for county board supervisors for the 2022-2023 session pursuant to Rule 2.01, Parent 19, Resolution 80-21. Just so everybody be clear, if you have not had a chance, please update your packet. There has been, the Finance Committee took a look at the proposed salaries as they were originally included in the packet and made some adjustments. It should be packet 2, and it should show that there was clear, at least recommendation from Finance Committee to recognize the additional workload that each of the standing committee chairs of the standing committees involved with do, along with the commitment that the vice chairs do. I know it is not significant, but it is a step in the right direction. And it also made an adjustment pursuant as far as the vice chair, and applied the same rule of 3% increase to those salaries. So you will see in packet 2 the proposed resolution. And I'll highlight one other change, and that was the effective date in the January 2023. It would be effective January 9th of 2023 in 2 places, in the third whereas, and in the now therefore be it resolved. So is there any discussion? Do we have a motion? Motion by Supervisor Robinson. Is there a second? A second by Supervisor Arstead. Any discussion? Supervisor Langenhan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to support this tonight, and that's going to sound kind of nonsensical because I just voted in favor of the budget, but I want to just say 2 things. One, in the hope that maybe some of this money will go towards other programs that can help some vulnerable citizens in our community. People in my district had a pretty tough year this past year, and I was reminded of that today. So this is not anything against any of the work that you all do here on this board. You all do tremendous work. You have very positive impacts in your community. I'm just not going to support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'll just
Supervisor Boots.
Supervisor Boots.
I will also not be supporting it, and for the reasons that I said at the executive committee. Thank you.
Supervisor Robinson.
I will be supporting it. I think it's a reasoned approach. It's been a while since the county board supervisors have had a pay increase, and we're always the first ones to cut ourselves out. And it isn't just for us, it's for the next board. If we're going to recruit talent, we'll never compensate people for the value of their time, but it's a reflection that we do value them and we treat them the same as other employees. We put 3% in the budget this year for salary pay for performance. This is a 3% increase in the board's rate. We did not get one 2 years ago, and I think you want to be careful that you not always look to the county board as a way to save it. So this gives a 3% increase to the positions and a $200 increase per year to the committee chairs, and a $200 first-time supplement for the vice chairs, recognizing their expanded workload in this based upon the county board rules. It's in line with what's happening with other county employees, and I think a reflection that we need to keep pace with the salaries of the board.
I also remind the board that this is setting the salaries and and it must be set today, it must be set prior to any supervisor or potential supervisor or citizen taking out nomination papers prior to December 1st. That is a requirement because per state statute, you're not allowed to provide yourself with a raise. And so, this does require a 3/4 majority vote, 2/3 majority vote of the board. It is also, because it does require a 2/3 majority vote, the motion would be to approve, I would accept a motion that also includes the wording that these suspends the rules that the county board adopted.
That was part of my original motion.
That was part of the chair's original motion. Is that consistent with the second? Thank you. Supervisor Gums. Supervisor Gums, you had your hand up? You're still on mute?
Okay, we'll try it again.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, how does the chair and the vice chair salaries compare to other counties in our area?
That review was done quite some time ago, and I don't know how I could give you a comparison because it hasn't been looked at in probably now 6 years. If you look at the responsibilities in the board rules, you would see the amount of time and effort that each of those entities or each of those individuals spend on the efforts of the county.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I was just interested.
Yeah, and it has not been studied for at least 6 years. Supervisor Robinson.
I think I made the motion setting the county board chair several years ago, and it was looking at a number of comparable size counties and trying to be competitive with where those other counties were, and so we did look at peer counties when we set that rate.
Supervisor Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be voting no for this resolution. Again, it's not a vote against, anyone's efforts in the past 2 years, but my constituency has been hurting in the past year and a half as well. And so I cannot support a raise for myself. Thank you.
Supervisor Van Cray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will admit that I initially was not planning on voting for this increase tonight, but after talking to some people, I was reminded that, because I would do this job for free because I love it, but I was reminded that not everyone is in the same position as I am to be benevolent like that. And I think when we're talking about the fairly small raise, it's a very small impact on our large budget, I would encourage you to vote yes for this tonight. And if it passes and you feel as a supervisor that you don't want to take that money, then use it to give back to your district or give back to your community. You can donate that. I just think that we have to remember that while I would do this job for free, not everybody on this board is in a position to do that, and I think we deserve to be recognized for that. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Supervisor Bizzotto.
Supervisor Bizzotto, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair.
I would like to, for what it's worth, throw my enthusiastic support behind this resolution, and that is because we are all local government officials. That means that any raise that we do get will be spent in the local economy, and I firmly believe that that is how we raise all boats, is by increasing that local spending. And I also support the comprehensive countywide salary study that we'll be conducting, because I hope to raise the salaries of all county employees. That includes us, so I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Supervisor Fisher here.
We got Supervisor Christensen and then Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe this is a question for the administrator. What are the rest of the employees getting for the Marathon County?
The budget calls for a 3% increase for the, that is put into our pay for performance. So in some cases, depending on the individual's performance, they may get 3% or more, or they may get less, depending on how their performance appraisal was.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Bizzotto?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Okay, I'm sorry, Supervisor Fisher was next.
Yep. Thank you, Chair Gibbs. I would just like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, Supervisor Bizzotto and Supervisor Van Cray. I think both of those are excellent points when it comes to discussing about the next year's board and whoever those individuals may end up being in total. And then also that it is in line with the other county employees, not to be in front of them or way behind them. So I do recommend my colleagues to go ahead and vote in favor. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Supervisor Lamont, and then Supervisor Boots.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Supervisor Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Initially, I was against this personally, but I am aware of members of the board that this would really help them out. And also, I do not accept the money for internet or mileage because I just don't think I need to have that. So if people want to get the raise, there's other areas that you don't have to take the money. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Boots, and then Supervisor Johnson.
Call the question.
Question's called. Is there any objection to question being called? We have one in the queue, but is there any objection? Since we have one person in the queue, they will be allowed to speak under our board rules. Is there any objection to question being called? There's no objection, so Supervisor Johnson will be the last to address this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a cautionary note, there is one board in Marathon County which has seen a zero raise for 15 years, and they get locked into that. And since our last cycle, we didn't know what the budget was going to be like. We were very prudent. We were, cautious and froze everything, which at that time was the right thing to do. If you do that 2 cycles in a row, you're running the risk of that becoming the expectation, and we're not going to be able to reach out to folks who want to serve. It won't be an attractive, because for most of us, it's not the money. That's not why we're here. But for some folks, maybe they have childcare issues, something like that. Those dollars do make a difference. So I would hate to see us get locked into a cycle of zeros over an extended period of time, freezing it, which is a very real concern. Because I want folks to get involved regardless of what their life circumstances are. I want everyone to feel welcome to get involved. So I will be supporting it for that very reason. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And because of the various individuals that have indicated various ways, I would like to have the clerk call the roll, please.
Goddard. Guild.
Aye.
Gums.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Jacobson,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Lamont,
Aye.
Longenhan,
No.
Leahy,
Aye.
Lowe,
No.
Mask,
Aye.
McEwen,
Aye.
Oberbeck,
Aye.
Opal,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Seafelt,
Aye.
Soibert,
Aye.
Van Cray, Zhang,
Aye.
Arstead,
Aye.
Beestrom,
Aye.
Bizotto,
Aye.
Boots,
No.
Book,
Aye.
Butke,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Seiler, Conway,
No.
Dickinson,
Aye.
Drabeck,
Aye.
Byfrick,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Gaber,
No.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Gonering.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the motion passes 30-7. And item G19, a resolution to use ARPA funding to purchase a web-based application for tracking of the ARPA funding to educate, identify, prioritize, and communicate the county's strategic ARPA funding plan. Resolution 81-21 has been pulled. And so we are down to announcements and/or requests. First, within the next 2 days, 2 days from now, we will be observing Veterans Day. So I would like to at least give a chance for each of the county board supervisors and anyone that's in the audience a moment to announce that they are a veteran and they have served this country. So please, by all means, anybody in personal attendance that has been a veteran, please stand up. Also, any of those supervisors that are in attendance on WebEx, please announce that you've served, at your name and your service, and just name and service, please. Anyone on WebEx that has served in the military? I would also like to extend a sincere appreciation to all the veterans in Marathon County, all of those that have served so willfully. Without their dedicated service, we would not be the country that we are. So again, thank you for all of those veterans. I also, the clerk wants me to, and I do sincerely want to say thank you to the North Central Regional Planning, in particular Andy Fouts, for all of the great work that he and North Central Regional Planning did, along with our own planning department, Gary Hetzert, Dave Mack, Preston Van Ort, and the CPZ staff in our redistricting efforts in producing our new redistricting maps. With that, is there any other announcements? We have Supervisor Lamont with his hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a request. I like to see you guys, but for some reason there's been the information, the agenda has been on the WebEx. Is that just my WebEx, or why is that still on there?
I apologize, and now you should see our smiling faces, the ones that are not hidden behind masks.
All right, thank you.
Well, maybe you see a blank screen right now.
Now I see it. I didn't get to see who stood as veterans, so that was disappointing.
I will, as soon as we get the screen back and the view, I will ask the veterans to please stand again.
Thank you.
Can we get that full screen? Is that the full screen? Okay. So now it should be on the WebEx. I would ask that all the veterans that are in attendance tonight, please stand in recognition of your service. With that, any other announcements? Vice Chair McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to let everybody know this Thursday, the 11th at 2 p.m., the Rules Review Committee is meeting to get in here, so everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Any other announcements for the good of the order? Seeing none, we are down to item number H21. Motion by Supervisor Seiler and second by Supervisor Rosenberg to adjourn. Any, any discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Technically, you need a